Hello. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this continuation of the Dear Umair episode based on the article with the following title. I'm burned out on collapse, and I bet you are too. The hidden cost of living through a time of fracture, disintegration, and catastrophe. Now, the first part of this episode went for 3 hours and 12 minutes, including the time we were reading the article and including the time that we were commenting on it, which of course is the vast majority of that time. And we noticed that there are some really awesome comments that we're going to be reading from. So now let's just go straight to the comment section, and I will also, as usual, make my background red when I'm reading, whether I'm reading the article, which we've already read in the first part of this episode, or the comments. So let's read the first comment, which has gotten more applauses than pretty much any other comment I've seen. And here it goes. The comment is by Stephen Trevarthen, and I'm going to stand up for some of this since I need to stretch my legs. I've been traveling. I heard recently about a Canadian doctor, Gabor Mate, who's an expert on addiction and trauma. I watched an online documentary about him and also listened to some interviews on YouTube. He has a Hungarian Jewish background and was born in 1944, the year Germany moved into Hungary and began the systematic deportation of Jews to Poland. He was briefly separated from his mother to evade capture. 2 of his grandparents died in Auschwitz. Mate makes the point that in some circumstances, people experiencing trauma are not suffering PTSD because their trauma is ongoing. A case in point is Beirut. Recently, the New York Times ran a story about what is happening there, where life in the city is essentially collapsing. Mate claims, so much of what we call abnormality in this culture is actually normal responses to abnormal culture. This abnormality does not reside in the pathology of individuals, but in the very culture that drives people into suffering and dysfunction. Perhaps it now makes sense to talk of OTSD, or ongoing traumatic stress disorder, as distinct from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And he got 166 claps, which is the most I've ever seen. For a comment, and it's clear why. I mean, this is ongoing stress. It's not like, anyway, let me change the screen from red so we can comment on what Stephen just mentioned here in his comment. Passing the talking feather.
Well, I agree with it 100%. Anyway, it is ongoing stress. It's ongoing, even hidden stress. It's hidden, ongoing stress as well. In a lot of cases, for people, they're not even unsure as to what is stressing them out, or that they're even that stressed. Sometimes they're so caught up in their lives, they're not even aware that they're completely stressed out. They're so used to it. It's as he said there, it's a cultural thing, so they're born into it. It's epigenetic as well, in a sense, like it's passed on from generation, because we've been living with it so long, because we were living under these systems for so long, and these systems, unfortunately, have good sides and bad sides, and the bad sides know what we're dealing with the effects that's coming down the line with global warming and everything else. And let alone, and the rising of fascism and everything else. It's all as a result of the situation has been mishandled. There's no other way of putting it. The situation has been mishandled for generations, and it's has caused generational abuse and epigenetic trauma built into us, and so much so that we accept our lot. And it's time for change. Simple as that. Passing the fed up.
Yeah, good stuff, James. You know, I'm just going to reread this quote from Mate. So much of what we call abnormality in this culture is actually normal responses to an abnormal culture. So in other words, it's not the individual who's crazy, it's the culture that is crazy. And it makes me wonder if we're going to cross a tipping point at some point where basically it becomes generally recognized that the culture is sick, right? And, you know, one analogy that comes to mind is like a sinking Titanic. At first, everyone's on board the Titanic, but as the ship is going down, more and more people jump off, the Titanic representing our current culture, right? In normal circumstances, one would be crazy to jump overboard the Titanic. That'd be committing suicide. But as time goes on, it became suicide to stay on board the Titanic, and your only hope of survival was to get the heck off in a lifeboat, a piece of driftwood, whatever, but get off the darn boat, right? And, you know, the boat being our culture. So anyway, really good stuff. Ongoing traumatic stress disorder. I mean, bottom line, this is just, it's very consistent with collapse. And we're looking at the collapse of culture as something that where people are just abandoning the dominant culture as insane. And I think increasingly we're recognizing that it is not insane to abandon the current culture, but it's actually insane to stay with it, to stay with the old story of hoarding, of individualism, of ego, of separation, which of course is at the root, I believe, we believe, of all this. Passing the feather.
It's definitely, you know, these all the pressures we have on our everyday life. We don't always recognize how they're affecting us until there's some kind of, you know, major, you know, breakdown of some kind. Then we look for the cause and find out that it's the world we live in and the situation we're faced with. You know, the literal extinction of all life on Earth for the 6th time. And this isn't a future event. It's a thing where the 6th mass extinction is happening right now. We're losing hundreds of species every day. And at that rate, with the continued warming of the planet, we're going to lose everything unless we turn it around with some form of cooling, rapid cooling. To not, even if you don't think about it consciously, it's in your subconscious. For everybody that has any contact with any kind of news, you at least hear about global warming, whether you believe in it or not. It still works on your subconscious in a way that it's causing that ongoing constant stress. And addressing that will probably be a big part of getting people on board that need to do. You know, it needs to come into their consciousness, and the only way that that's really going to happen is if they have some kind of event. Either it could be visiting, you know, one of our Zoom meetings and getting the real science, listening to somebody like Professor Salter from University of Edinburgh and his Marine Cloud Brightening Project. which is a very easy way to cool the planet. Easy, if you look at it from the full perspective of what the choice is. Let the planet overheat and all life cease once again, or save it. In that context, it's a project that's easily affordable, easily doable. And I feel like I'm starting to ramble here a little bit, but definitely appreciate that comment, because that is a big problem in the world right now. This stress that so many people don't even realize they're under. And with that, I pass the talking feather.
Yeah, good stuff, Marco. Ongoing traumatic stress disorder. And then I'll read another follow-on comment. So I'll change my background to red. This is a comment from Nikos Papakonstantino. And he says, you might be onto something here. He's responding to Stephen's comment. You might be onto something here. You can't have OTSD if you're in a life or death situation, such as being deployed in a war zone. Your survival instincts won't let you, and that's why PTSD manifests once soldiers go home and try to return to normal. In our situation, most of us are passive observers to our societal decline. So there is no adrenaline or fight or flight response to keep us from breaking down. Our lives are not in immediate danger. We are just wasting away due to anxiety, while our future prospects look increasingly bleak. Passing the talking feather.
Well, here to that anyway, because if I could put it better myself, I couldn't put it better myself, to be honest. I think that is exactly it on, hitting the nail on the head there now as well. That kind of is a good explanation for everybody at the moment. You know what I mean? Everybody, regardless of whether it's global warming or the rise of fascism or the loss of unemployment and hunger and everything that's going down there's nothing good that's happening at the moment really that you can really put your finger on in the world anyway, or nothing good that's trying to do anything good to stop any of these situations. So of course everybody's going around in a fucking sense of, sorry about the language, in a sense of limbo, a feeling of being in limbo. It's like a living fucking nightmare, you know what I mean? It's you're just trying to exist from day to day, but you're aware of this fucking dark cloud behind you somewhere that there's some shit gonna go down sooner or later, because there's so much going on that something has to give. One of these whatever disasters that people have in their head, regardless, there's so many that a lot of people will only focus in on one, and others are aware of a couple, and some are aware of everything. And they're the ones that are under most stress then, because the more you're aware of, it's in the Bible itself. He who striveth to increase its knowledge increases his strife. So in other words, the more you learn, the more you get stressed out, because of the fact that, some in this world, knowledge is pain, because knowing the reality of the world and the situation of the way it is at the moment, it's pain. It's carrying around an anvil on your chest every single day, because especially for the likes of people who are here and they're trying to, change makers who are trying to make the world a better place. There's plenty of people out there that want to do that. I have in my heart, I believe there's far more good people out there that want a world like that than there are bad people that are actually driving us to a world of fucking disaster. So at the end of the day, people have no hope because they feel there is no hope, because the whole situation does, if you look at it on a massive situation on a whole, does kind of seem hopeless to the point, because there is no one really making an effort. But, when all else fails, at the end of the day, and people realize, as I said, when people realize the building is on fire, then they're going to start scrambling for hope. But we don't have a time. It's not a time for us to be reactive anymore. We have to be proactive. Like we have to act now, as in get our shit together and act now. So anyone that's in the know are the people that are like the likes of Umair's readers here now, and the person who wrote that comment. These are people that are in the know on the planet, like, and these are the people that need to get together and try to come together to try and help to do something, to make some form of, get together and come together with the plan that we're acting on, which is basically a simple plan: save, heal, and transform Earth, the life on Earth. Like, that is a simple plan, because that's the plan that needs to be enacted. We need to save, heal, and transform life on Earth. So I just urge people that are, especially people making comments like that, to get in the game. You know what I mean? Life isn't, it's not all doom and gloom unless we accept it as our lot, or we can actually get in the game and do something about it. And we can only do it together. That's all. So I just implore people to come to it, come to our meetings. We'll be putting links out, just get in the game if you want to help. Passing the feather.
Beautiful. Thank you, James. You said something that struck me, that, no one's doing anything about it, right? The reality is there are a lot of people who are doing things about it, but number one, those people are very, very fragmented, right? There's millions, literally millions of nonprofits in the world, each doing something, but we're very, very fragmented, completely fragmented. And secondly, if you look at the news, the news gives you the impression that, everything's fine. Well, okay, well, Trump, we need to get rid of him. And yeah, we need to reduce carbon emissions and things like that. But basically, we need to just do some little tweaks, but basically we're doing fine. So stay tuned for the advertisements from our sponsors, and keep watching and keep shopping, right? And in order for people to keep shopping and buying all the crap that's being pushed by the advertisers, they need to believe that this is going to continue. So it creates the impression, the news creates the impression that no one's doing anything. And the fact that the change makers are so isolated from each other gives the very change makers themselves the impression that they're one of a tiny, tiny fraction of humanity that's doing anything at all, which is not the case, right? All of that leads us to the press conference, thepressconference.org, in which we are, in fact, bringing together the different change makers to create a united front of change makers, so that we can unite and together with Dear Umair, manifest a collective intelligence. And this gets back to the 8,000, 80,000, 800,000 exponential growth in the network of conversations, which we talk about in other videos. But the bottom line is, the imperative here is to come together, to unite as a collective intelligence, which is on an exponential growth trajectory towards collective super intelligence, which will absolutely transform life on Earth and break us out of this mindless Orwellian dystopian nightmare of delusion and fragmentation, which is allowing the death spiral to proceed unchecked, relatively unchecked. With that, I pass the feather.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, the idea of what I was saying there is, to the individual that's at home and on his own, like they're not seeing the whole picture as to the fact that there are vast and even to the change makers, that there are a great number of people out there trying to do something. But as you said, they're all fragmented. We need to be together. But what I was referring to there a while ago is that the individual person themselves that are trying to get on with their own life and stressed out and everything else, and they could see the way the global situation is. To them individually, they think there's no one doing anything about it. So that's why they're going around with this burden of stress constantly on top of them while they're trying to get on with their lives. And that's what we need to do, is to lift that weight off of people, you know what I mean, off the anvil, off the chest, and make them see, or let them see that there are change makers out there. And let the other change makers see that there are more change makers out there, that they're not the only ones, but we all need to come together to make change on a vast collective scale. So, you know, when we talk about super or collective intelligence, it's collective human super intelligence. Like, it's putting our minds together and talking and having our conversation and getting the answers and the solutions and acting on them. It can only be done that way, and it's as simple as that. So the sooner we get on with it, the better. Passing the feather.
And to add on to that, James, you know, the sooner we get on to solutions, the better. The biggest problem that I see for most people is they don't know about the solutions, or they think they know. You know, they only focus on carbon and carbon sequestration. You know, that's the biggest thing that the governments have done anything at all, is they'll admit to, you know, there might be too much carbon in the atmosphere, and they're ignoring, you know, like methane and other gases that are, you know, greenhouse gases. And greenhouse gases are those gases that trap heat in. There are solutions. We are aware of several. ICE 911 or 911. The Mirror Project, marine cloud brightening. There's 3 off the top of my head, all that essentially there's no tricky technology involved in any of these. These are all basic, simple things to do. The most promising, you know, the marine cloud brightening. The answers are there. We just need enough people to be aware of the answers and insist that we use what we know and cool the planet quickly enough so that we buy the time to do the drawdown, this carbon sequestration, and whatever else we can do to get other, you know, gases out of the atmosphere. All the things that people are finally listening to that we were warned about as much as 60 years ago. We needed to do them then. It's too late now to just plant trees and recycle and those things. Those things won't cool the planet fast enough. We need some form of solar radiation management, like ICE 911, Mirror Project, marine cloud brightening. One of those options, all of those options, because we need to buy time to relearn how to live on the planet in a way that's sustainable. And with that, I pass the talking feather.
Good stuff, Marco. Good stuff. And, you know, at a more meta level, so you've talked about the main, you know, a number of solutions under the umbrella of solar radiation management for cooling the planet, which is the single most urgent thing that we have to do. Otherwise, we're just going to continue burning up and drying out and not be able to grow food and not be able to survive, period. But at a more kind of meta level, right? we need to shatter the 1984 projection screen, for that famous Apple advertisement in 1984, the Orwellian projection screen. We need to shatter the screen that basically says, the screen of the dominant narrative, which is that things are basically fine, and yeah, we need to reduce carbon emissions, and when we do, the planet will cool down, and and basically everything's fine. There's nothing to freak out about. Continue as normal. We need to shatter that, and I think the way to shatter that is to finally introduce an alternative narrative to the narrative that everything's fine and all we need is a few tweaks, and that is, no, we need radical change. And ironically, the first two steps of radical change are very economical, they aren't really going to cost much money at all. And one of those is solar radiation management. Marine cloud brightening will cost on the order of 10 billion. Feeding everyone plant-based foods, making plant-based foods available to everyone, can be done on the basis of donations and volunteerism, as we're proving in Los Angeles with Food Healers Los Angeles. And then there's some other radical changes, but what we're starting to see here is that the most urgent of the radical changes aren't going to take that much resource to accomplish. It's going to be actually relatively easy to do this. It's not going to, but we still have to do it. It's easy, and it's going to be cheap and easy, but we still have to do it to make those changes. But I think the fundamental meta solution is that a critical mass of us get together to acknowledge the reality that we have serious problems that we need to solve, and that we need to form a collective intelligence of a network of conversations to solve them, and then get busy with it. And then as that network grows, it'll become like a benevolent black hole that will just pull in huge swaths of humanity, and really get an exponential growth in the network of conversations and the numbers of people who are engaged in an effectively unified and yet at the same time decentralized effort to get us all together, to do what we need to do, which is to implement these changes and to continue to root down, to go more and more radical, to go deeper and deeper into all this. And with that, I pass the feather. There's a lot more comments to read, but anyway, I'm going to pass the feather. Passing it on. Thanks.
No, I'm complete on that one anyway, so I'd read another comment.
Okay, great. I'm going to read two more comments since they kind of go together. These are still both comments, responses to Stephen's original comment. One is from Christopher Miller. Same situation as with depression. It's not mental illness if the causes of one's misery are external and real. In such case, depression is an entirely normal mental response to one's environment. That's Christopher. And then Linda's reply, presumably to Stephen's comment, says, exactly. Mary Trump, Donald Trump's niece, contends the same. There is no healing, she asserts, while the trauma continues. Excellent point, friend, Lynn. And with that, I pass the talking feather.
That is another excellent and valid point, because that just goes to show how screwed up our society is. The realization for most people that because a proper counselor is somebody, as Marco has had experience with, doesn't prescribe medication. They help you to get to the root of the problem. And yes, this is the very subject we're here talking about. This is a depressing world. I mean, as there's plenty of things out there to get us down, and just trying to survive from day to day is enough of a burden for most people. So there is no prescription medication for that, but yet our society has found a way to profit off of our misery. You know what I mean? It's just another example of how screwed up our society is. So that's a great comment, because it just focuses in again on just another minute way or example of how screwed up our society is. I mean, the book of psychiatrist diagnosis for psychiatric illnesses, I must imagine, is after growing exponentially, you know, in the last couple of decades, because the more they can name something as being a disorder, they can easily produce a medication to treat it. So that's just, again, our society is screwed up. Profit from misery, from people's misery, profit from the poor, profit from whatever, regardless, profit from the environment. It's all about economy and profit and everything else. We got to change our ways. It's as simple as that. Passing the feather.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, we need to change our ways. Is a big part of it. But just to go back and use my personal story again, you know, I've been treated for depression with drugs, and they didn't work. And then they say, oh, well, there's so many drugs out there to help, and we just have to find the right one to because these drugs work on your brain chemistry and how you absorb, you know, dopamine and serotonin and these types of things. And all we have to do is keep trying till we find the right one, because the right pill is out there for you to cure your depression. And, you know, this is my general practitioner, family doctor talking to me. And when I did try counseling, that didn't go very well at all. And fortunately, a little bit out of my control, my counselor moved, and I had to find a new one. And the new one really did what I needed. And when I told her about what my doctor said, and that I had already been to the point where I said, you know, I'm not on any antidepressants anymore, because the best I got out of them is to be numb rather than feel, you know, desperately miserable. But it didn't allow me to be happy ever either, just numb. And I said, I'd rather be happy once in a while and miserable all the time than not be happy ever and just be numb. And that was my reason to stop taking them. And my therapist said, you know, after she said, let's get a couple of sessions, and she said, you know what? She said, you know, first of all, I'm glad you're off those medications. And after a couple of sessions, she said, now that I know you and know your situation, she said, you know what? You don't need pills to alter your brain chemistry. Your life is depressing. Your situation is depressing. There would be something wrong with you if you weren't depressed. What you need to do is change your situation. And that's the prescription for the whole planet. All we need to do is change our situation. And we can do it. That it's within our power to do it. And you know, that'll be the number one prescription for planetary depression, is to change the situation to where it's not depressing. And with that, I pass the talking feather.
Beautiful, Marco. Thank you for sharing that. All right, it seems to be working well to read two comments in a row, because there's a lot of comments to get through. So let me go ahead and read the next two. The next comment is from Pat O'Leary. Yes, years. Oh, I'm sorry. The next one is from Liz Fisher, and then Pat's is after that. Liz Fisher says, thank you, Umair. This was a deep breath and long exhale to read. Loving, gentle, and kind is not always easy, but well worth the release of effort. Allergic to the sun and autoimmune disorder, you've learned how to deal with it and avoid stress. Sometimes the deep breath and long exhale and dropping out of life's chaos for a short time resets us for the loving, gentle, and kind self. That's from Liz. Then Pat O'Leary writes, yes, years of being lied to, years of astonishing disregard for humanity, war for profit, death to thousands of others, collateral harm to those who don't matter. Nature exploited and the earth destroyed for temporary personal or sectoral gain, and others denying what's plain to see or blithely saying that God's in control when the very will of God is being ignored in all the lies, war, injustice, and destruction. Hope being eroded, our children's futures being robbed. It's exhausting. We can only do what we can do, I guess. Love the people we're with. Love our neighbors. Do whatever good we can. Work for peace and social justice. Strengthen the things that remain. And he concludes by saying, weary, not of well-doing. I'll just comment here real briefly on what Pat is saying. I mean, what can we do? Yes, we can do all those things, Pat, but we can also radically change the paradigm by precisely manifesting, creating a collective intelligence that's evolving towards collective superintelligence, which will make very clear the problems and the solutions and exactly what we need to do step by step to solve our problems. It sounds simple, and it actually is kind of simple when you get to it mechanistically. Anyway, with that, I'll pass the talking feather.
Well, I just say here to Pat anyway there, and I'd imagine with the name Pat O'Leary, he's definitely an Irishman, if not Irish descent. But fair Jews, that's bang on. And I would just say to that, like that all those things you describe you do are admirable and sound like just a typical Irish person, as you know, we do look after each other in our communities and everything else like that. You know, unfortunately, some parts of the world are a lot worse off than others, I suppose, and some parts of the world are caught up in the busy world. Well, most parts of the world are, but yet somehow partly in the, you know, in Ireland, we seem to still have time and we look out for each other in our communities and everything else. Yeah, obviously we have our troubles as well, but you know, there's always a few bad apples on the barrel. Point I'm making is that yourself, what you're saying there is very valid, and it's a great thing to be able to have an opportunity to comment on people's, you know, other people's comments as well. And it's a great, you know, it's just a great way to be able to get in and talk to like-minded people or comment on like-minded people and read that comments from other like-minded people. But I would just urge it now, expand on that a little bit more and consider how much like-minded people like ourselves who are in the know, once we get in conversation in, you know, in numbers, anybody, you know, it's as plain as Jamin said, it is as easy as that, really. It is just as easy as that for us to just get in the game, get in conversation and just see what transpires. Let's face it, like, what is the alternative? Passing the feather.
Beautiful, James. Thank you. All right, shall we read a couple more comments? The next one is a comment from Amazing Larry. Thank you, Umair, for another article that makes me feel like I am not the only one who is completely losing my mind here. Not to say that I am happy that other people are struggling, but the fact that others are sensing that something is deeply wrong leads me to believe that many of us who are having a difficult time are saner than we think. I am reminded of a quote by one of my favorite philosophers, Jiddu Krishnamurti. Here's the quote: "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." That's amazing, Larry. Next, Paulette Quick comments, when life is so awful, this is especially when it is important to fan the small flame of love and joy within us. Anytime you can communicate with someone you love, you are not giving in to the destructions of being visited upon the earth. The positive thoughts and feelings we can create returns some agency to our lives and creates peace, if only for a few minutes at a time. Yeah, there's just a common theme here that you're not crazy, or I'll take the background off. You're not crazy. It's the world that's crazy. And the way to get out of it is to come together and essentially create a planetary support group that, number one, we acknowledge, no, you're not crazy. It's the world that's crazy. It's the old paradigm that's crazy. It's the omnicide that's crazy. And the antidote to all this craziness and despair is, number one, coming together and communing and supporting each other. And number two, co-creating all the solutions and then implementing them. Again, sounds simple because it is. It is simple. We need to come together. And now we have a formula for it, which is collective intelligence, a network of conversations. And with that, I pass the feather. Thank you.
Well, I don't really have much to say on that, no, other than yes, it's important for us to take time out, for all of us individually, take out time out in our day, just to get a small bit of breathing space and get us reset ourselves a little, and that's important. But that is all that we're getting, if we're lucky to do that. To get a little bit of breathing space in the day for yourself. Come on, people, let's think about it. We deserve better than that. Simple as that. You know what I mean? We shouldn't be running around stressed out of our skulls and waiting the worst and accepting that we get, okay, quarter of an hour to ourselves just to have a bit of relaxing time. Maybe walk around with my feet in the grass. Ain't going to solve anything that's happening exponentially or in any way. And that, all problems, they're just exponentially getting worse. So that's the doom and gloom that we all feel hanging over us. That's the doom and gloom that we're carrying around with us. So we have to work through the problem to get rid of the problem. So we have to confront it. And we can't do it unless we talk, have conversation about it. So that's all I have to say about that one. Passing the feather.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a coping mechanism to be able to take some time and not think about the desperate situation we're in. But you have to come back to reality and change what's wrong. Lots of complaining about what's wrong. Far too little action in correcting the things that are wrong. But that's definitely a good direction to go there. About that time for yourself to just not think about the bad situation, and if you do it by yourself or have a group, but sometimes that's very often a good thing, a group of people that can regularly meet to talk about good things and positive things and have some entertainment together in community, and then extend that community out a little farther and a little farther, and come here to the conversation on our regular meeting days. All links will be available below, and it's very therapeutic to be here and talking about solutions that are within our grasp. And we regularly have some brilliant engineers, scientists in the conversations here that have solutions to the problem. And we don't have to focus on one because there's multiple solutions that are within our grasp technologically. We don't have to lose all life on Earth this time if we just organize ourselves and promote the science that shows we can cool the planet in time to learn to live sustainably. And we welcome anybody with an idea that might be better than the ones we've come across, or at least come see what we've seen, and the answers there are to cooling the planet so that we can all survive. Yeah, with that, I pass the feather.
Great. Thank you, Marco. Thank you, James. A couple more comments. An ethereal girl in a material world writes, this, so much this. I was absolutely riveted reading this, as it so accurately captures this moment in time and the impact it is having upon me and apparently many others as well. Thank you. Being kind to a stranger costs absolutely nothing, but that kindness may have very well saved their life if they were having a particularly bad day. It's very important to remember this, I think. And then Cara Lee responds to Ethereal Girl's comment saying, right there with you in feeling all of this. This is an absolutely brilliant article in so many ways. I just have a quick comment. Sorry, I should have put it red for the last ones, but anyway, that I was reading. The coming together really enables two things that are emerging here. One is a support group. You're not crazy, I'm not crazy, we're not crazy, and let's get through this together. So togetherness and support, and realizing we're not crazy. It's the world that's crazy, and it's the old paradigm that's crazy and omnicidal. And then second is beyond support group functions is revolution. We need a revolution against the status quo of exponential destruction and exponential death, okay? A revolution against those two things and toward the development and implementation of solutions. And the action item, the meta solution for achieving all this is coming together as a network of conversations so that each of us can find exactly that conversation, or more likely those conversations within the network, where we can both get the support that we need and make the most valuable contributions that are latent potential within us that we need to all bring together. If we all crack open that latent potential and bring it together, we can do amazing things with collective super intelligence. It's very clear to me. And with that, I pass the talking feather. Thank you.
Sorry, I was going to say something, I know, but I'm after it slipped. It's after gone over my head, but it might come back to me.
Yeah, it helps me to take notes. I'm taking notes as we go.
Yeah, I totally echo the I forget which one.
Read out that lady.
Had the comment.
Sorry, Marco.
I'm sorry. What was that?
I was saying, yeah, read out the last comment from, or the lady's comment there, and you last read out, right? And it might bounce back into my head what I wanted to say.
Oh yeah. Here, let me reread it. This time I'll make my background red like I was supposed to the first time. Okay, so here's the comment from an ethereal girl in a material world. This, so much this. I was absolutely riveted reading this, as it so very accurately captures this moment in time and the impact it is having upon me and apparently many others as well. Thank you. Being kind to a stranger costs absolutely nothing, but that kindness may have very well saved their life if they were having a particularly bad day. It's very important to remember this, I think. And then Kara's comment after that, right there with you in feeling all of this. This is an absolutely brilliant article in so many ways. Passing the feather.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It was what that girl said there now and saying that she was so surprised that there are other people thinking that way and delighted, you know what I mean? And that is the thing, like that's just a typical example of how many people could be are out there thinking the same thing, you know, regardless of their state of what state they think the world is in, or their, you know, regardless of what's bad to them or whatever else, people are out there feeling the same feelings. That's the point I'm making. And you know, that girl or that lady is one typical example of a person who's delighted to know there's more people out there. But wouldn't it be better now for that person to even be delighted even better, or would they be even more delighted to know that they can get in on the conversation as well with like-minded people? That's all we're offering here anyway as well. And I also agree about what you said about, you know, being kind to each other and everything else, because my own father used to say to us, you can travel the world on manners alone. And that is true. I proved that myself, you know what I mean? It doesn't take anything to be, you know, it doesn't cost anything to be nice and to, you know, to be polite. And I found that to be true. Traveling through, you know, I've been lucky enough to travel through America and found people to be just because I was myself, they found me to be a very decent person or whatever, and they were eager to help me. By that I mean, you know, give me lifts where I was going or whatever else. And same in China, even with a complete language barrier, I was able to manage to make many friends in China, and without even having, you know, I just had the basic of the Chinese manners, yes, thank you, and all that. But I still came out of China with Chinese friends, so you know, it just goes to show. So, you know, I applaud what you said, and I also urge you to realize that you're not alone, and there are people here who are willing to talk to you, and you can, and be glad to even hear what your solutions or suggestions are. You know what I mean? So let's get in the game, people. Passing the feather.
Yeah, awesome, James. Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly it. You know, this is just reading this article. I know for ourselves, it's like I thought, you know, it could be, I could have written the article, you know, from the feeling point of view of how tired I am of, you know, working to inform people about the options that there are. We're getting, people are so grateful for Umair's article, simply describing how we're in a bad situation and how bad it's making us feel. Um, and we're getting benefit out of that. You know, it feels good to know that we're not the only one thinking that this is terrible and it's wearing us down. Think how much better you'll feel if you can come to a place where there's solutions to these huge problem of the planet overheating. Think how much better that will feel if you can be part of that conversation and you can be part of that answer. And that's what we're offering here at the conversation, is we're offering answers, we're offering solutions, we're offering information, we're offering real science in a way that it's easy to grasp. You don't need to be a scientist or you know, a Mensa, you know, IQ. You just have to care about more than yourself. It's that simple. And with that, I pass the feather.
Thanks, Marco. And just building off what you said, I know that you know, a lot of our focus is on global warming, but of course, you know, with a network of conversations, we can span dozens, hundreds, thousands of problems and their corresponding solutions holistically and simultaneously. And many of these solutions, like what Marco was talking about, many of these you will come up with, or you and a group of other people who you may not even know now, or you may know them already. Maybe you're part of a conversation, a discussion group of your own. Bring that whole group to the network of conversations. Bring your conversations to the network of conversations. Let's do this. It's time, and we're running out of time. So we need to do this with great urgency. All right, I'll either pass the feather or read the next couple of comments, depending on you guys.
Well, I'd just like to add to that to you know, bring your community. If you and your community have engaged in a project together, and that brought you know a better life to your own community, pass on the knowledge. You know what I mean? Come and talk about that. You know, share your ideas. That's what it's all about. Pass on the knowledge and help each other.
Beautiful. All right, let me read it. I'm going to read 3 more comments this time because there's lots of comments. And I encourage you guys to take notes, which is what I'm doing. Anxionat, I don't know how to pronounce that, writes, thank you for the excellent analysis, Umair. I've lived with untreated PTSD since I was a child, so I could see the symptoms in my own life. And the last several years have been more of the same, worse than before, but had no idea lots of people were feeling the same way. I know this sounds horrible, but at least now I know I'm not the only one. At least if lots of us are feeling this, does it make things less hopeless? Does it give all of us the capacity to act together? I certainly hope so. Hallelujah. That's it. Underline that. At least
Simple as the man is speaking our language.
Exactly. Absolutely. Or the woman, Anxionat. I'll repeat it. At least if lots of us are feeling this, does this make things less hopeless? Does it give all of us the capacity to act together? I certainly hope so. And I say hell yes. A couple more comments. This hit deeply home and describes my reality to a T. Thanks for making it less isolating. And the next, that was from Melanie Pope. Next, Pam McDonald writes, thank you for putting on paper what has been simmering in my mind for some time now. It's good to know that I'm not alone. A lot of comments of this nature. With that, I pass the feather.
Yeah, with all the talk that's in the media, something that gets, you know, quite a bit of play is overpopulation, and it seems very ironic that anyone should feel alone in a community of 8 billion people. There's definitely strength in numbers, and all we need is to get some information across to the right number of people, and then the magic happens. You know, the collective intelligence and this collective super intelligence manifests just by conversation. People, you know, talking about how they feel. How good has it made so many of us feel to hear Umair put in words the emotional burden of knowing that there's a major problem going on, and nobody can even, not enough people even agree that it exists. I think I'm beginning to ramble here a little bit. The point being is, yeah, we need to have more conversations, and although this is a two-way conversation with the comments, being here live, and I see so many possibilities with just the comments we've read all over. So many intelligent, caring people in Umair's followers that, come talk with us, live. Look for the links below. And with that, I pass the feather.
Well, I haven't got much to say to other than that it's just that those comments are just typical examples of what we're saying. Like there are a lot of people are out there, as Mark was said, in a population of what, 7.5 billion people, like, and yet people are alone, feeling alone. It's just sad. That's all I can say. You know what I mean? Simple and plain. Passing the photo.
Well, it's sad, but the fact of all of us coming together is very inspiring and gives us tremendous hope, as a previous comment said. And, the three of us coming together, Jamin, James, Marco, the three of us coming together and doing what we're doing is a microcosm of what we're proposing that we do, is that all of us together, not in one giant mega church style room, but in a network of rooms. So, there'll be rooms that'll be just focused on grieving, others that'll be focused on the magnitude of the global warming problem, others on the solutions to the global warming problem, others on analyzing totalitarianism, others on solutions to totalitarianism, right? Others on analyzing our economic problems, others on solutions to our economic problems, and so on and so on and so on and so on. Imagine a whole vast network of conversations. We're just kind of like, we're the beachhead at Normandy, the three of us, right? And, or one of the beachheads, actually. There's a bunch of beachheads. We need to bring the beachheads together and make it safe for others to join. So really good stuff, everyone. And all these comments are affirming, we're all basically saying the same thing. The world is crazy. It's causing us, as Stephen Trevarthen said, OTSD, ongoing traumatic stress disorder. It's killing us. The planet is dying along with us. And guess what? We can come together and put an end to this. We can stop the madness by co-creating all the solutions that we need and implementing them, all in the context of a collective intelligence evolving towards collective superintelligence. All right, I'm going to read the next comment, just one this time, since it's a little longer. It's by Shelley. She writes, "Thank you. I wrote an article about 30 years ago called The Mundane Stress of Racism. In the past nearly 2 years, not only the stress of racism, but all the other challenges you mentioned have been increasing to a level that is not mundane, but monstrous. It even bothers me that the commercials, ads, and emails are flashing shiny objects, i.e. cheap travel, cool restaurants, new cars, in the hope of pulling us away from the negatives to hypnotize us back into a false sense of happiness, security, and complacency. But the lid is off Pandora's box. Better late than never. I'm going to change my background. But the lid is off Pandora's box. Halfway through Shelley's comment. And it cannot just be stuffed back. We are in a world in pain from sickness, hatred, greed, and death. Learning how to live in peace with our new understanding and awareness stressed me out. It also, in a strange way, energized me. I don't pick up all the pieces of a broken fantasy of the world. I pick and choose with full knowledge of the dark side. It may be cheesy, but with light, we can overcome the dark. Perhaps not eliminate it, but mask it enough to find moments of joy, rest, and peace from negatives that bombard us and energize us enough to fight for change. Hallelujah, Shelley. Thank you. Passing the talking feather.
Yeah, here. That's what I'd say. Well done to Hallie as well. It's you know, it's people who are not only just brave enough to speak like that, but are saying like they want to get in the game, like they want to, you know, be proactive and help. So there's a place here for you. That's all I'd say. You know what I mean? Join the conversation. I mean, it's not just the three of us here. I like to emphasize that. It's just that we do these at awkward times in life for a lot of people in different parts of the globe, and people have busy lives, as we know. But a lot of our members are usually here on the Fridays and the different agenda times we have. So it's just, the point is, Hallie, I would stress, get in the conversation and join us. These are the people you're definitely the person we're looking for. You know what I mean? All of Umair's readers are the type of people we need to be talking to and who need to be talking in the conversation. It's great to make comments, but it's better to get in the game.
And by the way, James, that was actually Shelley's comment, not Haley. Shelley, and passing the feather.
Sorry, my mistake.
No worries. Passing the feather.
Yeah, I can't think of any more to add to that. Just brilliant comments. Thank you.
All right, the next comment is a cynical one, I would say, but it got a very substantial number of applauses. And here's the comment from William R. Brown. You're burnt out on collapse? That is what you peddle day in and day out. It's like a pimp being upset to learn that his hoes are sleeping with other men. LMFAO, which means laughing my bleeping ass off, is what that, anyway, just a cynical comment. I thought it was interesting that it got a lot of applauses. And see, the thing is, I'd like to comment on this one that, I'll change the color then, that, you know, Umair is doing a very tough job. This used to be called, in the early days of journalism, muckraking. Umair is doing a lot of muckraking. Umair, you are outstanding at muckraking. And to ask that Umair, you know, do both the muckraking and provide all the solutions and implement them. I mean, what is this? What is he supposed to be, Superman? He's one person. It's going to take all of us coming together and working together, not in a context of cynicism, but in a context of hope and love and communion and unity and determination and collective intelligence to get this all done. Anyway, that's my comment, passing the talking feather.
Well, I'd just like to say, like, you know, this is also a part of society that we have to deal with. You know what I mean? A lot of people, for whatever reason, he made his comments, whether that be complete denial or just whatever, being vindictive or whatever. The point, his first statement was wrong in the sense, or even if he looks at his first statement, he'll see that the answer is in his first statement. You're burnt out from collapse. That's what you peddle. Well, it's not something he's peddling, it's truth he's speaking. And if you're constantly speaking the truth, yes, you're going to get burnt out from it. I have personal experience from it, so have we all here, and so have all the other readers, I'm assuming, who have made the other valid comments, because they're constantly thinking about it. And when you think about it, because you know it's the truth and you're worried about it, the longer you think about it, you're going to get burnt out. And what can you do when you get burnt out from anything? Well, you have to rely on the help of others, or come together with others to help yourself. And that's what we're only here for, really, is to show that there are other people out there, like Umair's readers are realizing. And yes, there's somewhere for them to go as well and have the conversation with like-minded people and perhaps help come up with the solutions and implement them. So yes, you get a lot of negativity, but sure, what can you do? You know what I'm saying? Eventually, these people are the ones that are only going to start realizing the problem when the building is actually on fire around them. Passing the vet on.
Yeah, definitely. Umair is putting forth the just the situation as it exists, and based on all the positive comments, or positive in as much as so many people feel exactly the same way. Anybody that doesn't feel that right now we're in a desperate situation is either ignorant or delusional. And I don't mean ignorant as an insult. I mean, just they just don't have the information that they need to have to make an intelligent comment. And feel free to come and be part of even these Dear Umair segments. All our contact information is in the links, and there we do at least right now 2 a week. One on Friday and one on the Monday. So, and if you do, go to the links below, you can get on our mailing list, so at least usually a day ahead of time of what the schedule is for the next day. And with that, I pass the talking feather.
Beautiful. Yeah. And what we're basically aiming for, and we've been pretty consistent, is doing it at 1 p.m. Pacific time. That's San Francisco, Los Angeles, Seattle time. 1 p.m. Pacific time on both Monday and Friday is when we're doing Dear Umair. Good stuff. And yes, everyone is invited. And I would actually offer as well that even people who are cynical, right? Just imagine if we have a network of 1,000 conversations going in parallel. What's the matter if one or two or even 100 of those are people who want to be cynical and want to just say it's hopeless, and I just want to talk about how hopeless it is and how ridiculous it is that all these change makers are trying to change the situation because it's so hopeless and humans deserve to be dead anyway. Whatever. You know what? If you want to have that conversation, have it. Within the network of conversations, sure, why not? If for no other reason than so that the rest of us can study the cynics, right, and see where they're coming from, because that's important to know. We need to ultimately master, for lack of a better word, all the diverse perspectives on what's going on in the world, problems and solutions. All right. Yeah, go ahead.
I would even say, like, to add to that, those are the conversations that are probably just as important as the solution conversations, because those are the conversations with those that you would say that are cynics, like the last reader they are commented there. Those are the people that you have to have the conversation with anyway, in order to break down that cynicism for whatever reason it lies behind it, whether that's denial or fear or whatever else. But let them, see the truth. You have to reveal the truth to these people as well, because otherwise how can you convince anyone to, if all of us have to be on board with this game? Like, at the end of the day, like, we need to eventually, we're all going to have to pitch in our own backyards, so to speak, because that's what's happening. It's a global issue. Nobody's free from this. You know what I mean? They can't pick and choose. it's, you know, get in the game, like, because it's the only game now that matters. It's the game of survival. A real one, not an online video game. You know what I mean? So it's only a couple of hours a week of conversation, but I bet you anything, once you get into it, you'll start to add the hours in the week, because, you know, it is good to help. It is that, and it feels that when you're helpful, then you feel better yourself. Simple and plain. Passing the feather.
I just like to point out too that I know we often say, welcome to all like-minded people, come and be part of this conversation. But there's also space, you know, in our conversations for those that have a different point of view, a different perspective, and that's very welcome. To the point you can do it politely, respectfully. Bring your, you know, your opposing views, because you never know. Maybe we don't. You know, I don't, for the smallest instant measurable, think I have all the answers, or even most of the answers. I know I have some small answers that can make a big effect. Literally, there are answers here that can save us from extinction. And who doesn't want to be part of that conversation? And very often it's an opposing point of view or a different perspective that will get us on to maybe even a better solution, keep us thinking, keep us on our toes. Be part of the conversation. I'm tired of hearing people complain about what's wrong and not be part of a conversation to move things and make them right. And with that, I pass the feather.
Beautiful. Thank you, Marco. All right. Let me read a couple more comments. We've got, changing my background. Okay, we've got Dan Gianbellino saying, take a long walk in the woods, my friend. Aim for 10 kilometers per day. Your body will be back in full gear and the planet will be thankful. Switch off from the media once you reach a subliminal threshold. It is a must. The world will still be there when you return on your desk. Don't forget adaptogens for the hard times and intermittent fasting when you can. That's Dan. And then Catherine Moore writes, this piece made me think of this article. And in parentheses, the human heart and the mind are such fragile things. And she has an article from The Guardian in the environment entitled, apparently, Greta Thunberg, I really see the value of friendship apart from the climate. Almost nothing else matters. All right, with that, I pass the feather.
Well, to the first person, I would just say yes. That sounds like a healthy, personal, healthy choice to way, or, you know, lifestyle. But that's all well and good if you want to have your personal, healthy lifestyle and get on with it that way. But, you know, the big picture is still going on the outside. You know, we can all are consumed in our little bubbles, our personal bubbles of life. But we still have this weight on our shoulders of the realization that there's a real, you know, a whole world out there of problems. And that pressure is basically putting pressure on all of our individual bubbles. So the pressure is on all of us, basically. So all of our individual bubbles are going to burst sooner or later. And the question is, are we going to get in the game sooner and take a bit more pressure off of our individual bubbles, or are we going to just stay in our bubbles until we're crushed? Because that's what's coming. Like, you know, we can't get out of the situation we're facing unless we come together. Even the IPCC report states like that. you know, even though their timeline is out by 10 years, but they're saying, you know, this involves massive worldwide global change, societal changes and everything else. So they're even admitting it themselves. We are going to have to come together, and it's as simple as that. What we're talking about is getting together faster with the right answers, not the one agenda that the IPCC have, which is decarbonisation. That's not the way to go on its own. There was lots of conversation to be had before that is implemented. You know what I mean? And actually, I can't see it even ever being implemented before it's too late. Passing the feather.
Yeah, clearly the decarbonization is something that has to happen, but we missed the boat on that being the only answer. We missed the boat by about 60 years, give or take. But we still need to do all those things. So they're not bad ideas, and it's not bad for people to work on them now and learn what we need to be sustainable and not put carbon in the atmosphere, or at least have enough natural carbon sinks that we get back to a moderate temperature planet again. And it's all doable, but first we have to cool the planet quickly. We have very little time, somewhere from months to possibly 2 years to cool the planet in order to buy time for all those other things. And that's just the way it is. And if you don't think so, come to one of our meetings, bring your doubts, bring your challenges, bring your questions, bring your alternate solutions. All are welcome. And with that, I pass the feather.
All right, good stuff, you guys. Let me read 3 more comments in a row. Here goes. First one is from Robin Maxwell. She writes, "Thank you for this, Umair. You nailed it. What we, with a head, a heart, and a gut, are feeling all the time now. Nobody in my life was admitting to unrelenting insomnia like I was having. I would only add to your solution of practicing kindness this thought from Mary Shelley. Quote, there is but one solution to the intricate riddle of life: to improve ourselves and contribute to the happiness of others." Next, Linda Scanlon writes, "I care about you as a human being who struggles to make sense out of that which is nonsensical to our rational brains. You know firsthand the horrors and humiliation of fascism. You recognize the signs. You know how to separate the frivolous from serious and have warned us to keep alert, but now we are experiencing hyperarousal. Our overworked brains are trying desperately to adjust, but its wiring and chemistry are all out of wackadoo. Boo-hoo. We can't reach homeostasis. We can't find our way back home. Lynn." And third is a comment from Jen Maidenberg. "Getting off social and the internet isn't just lip service. We better control our own realities when we have more control over our attention and focus. External stimuli like social news, other people's emotions, and reactivity all contribute to a consensus reality we take part in. On some small level, I see an improvement in my health when I limit my stimulation and mind the content and sensory experiences I expose myself to. I've been seeing the positive results of this for years, along with dream work which has helped me experience feelings and emotions I was dissociating from in an unhealthy way. Happy to talk more with you about it. I appreciate your voice and activism, Umair. Well, Jen, we will be so happy to have you here. And with that, I pass the talking feather.
Well, to Jen, anyway, I would say again, no, like the other man that was talking about taking a 10-mile walk. Again, great. I commend them on their lifestyle choices, but again, their personal lifestyle choices within their own bubble, and it's still at the end of the day not being aware of or shutting out the big picture. Basically, yeah, that's a form of shutting out the big picture. It's yes, you have to look after yourself. That's of course, if we don't look after ourselves, we can't look after anything. I mean, at the end of the day, you should get up in the morning, look in the mirror. I read it as an affirmation once. Read it and look in the mirror and say, you in the morning, and say, you are the most important person in your life. Because if you don't look after yourself, you can't look after others. It's as simple as that. And it depends on how much you love others then that you want to look after yourself to in order to be there for them. And that's what it's coming down to essentially now. We all have our loved ones and we want the best for them and we want to look after them. And it's coming down to the fact that it's, you know, pressure of life is getting so hard for people like that, and they mostly aren't worried for themselves, they're worried for their loved ones, really. Like, that's the way I see it anyway. That's why most people are under pressure, because they're not thinking of themselves, they're thinking of their loved ones. And you have to think of that outside of your bubble now, on a global scale. We all have to think of our loved ones on a global scale, in a sense, like, because that's the weight that's pressing on everyone, and that's the pressure that's keeping everybody awake at night, and stopping them from sleeping, as Umair says. And the sense of, even though you're exhausted and you feel like you want to go into hibernation, and just aching that I carry even in my chest at most days, you know what I mean? The only time I seem to lift that weight off me is when I'm in conversations on the conversation or the block party, or you know, doing these their Umair talks, like. Because it's just a very fact of being able to speak to people who are on the same wavelength as you, without having the negativity being thrown at you all the time from people who are, again, for their own reasons, either in denial, in fear of the speaking of it, because they can't even contemplate or deal with it because of the pressures of life on top of them. So there's no blames or no people are right or wrong in the whole matter of the situation, like. But we're all in this situation. Simple as. Passing the feather.
All righty. Well, I've got some comments in response to Robin's comment, and she quotes Mary Shelley saying, there is but one solution to the intricate riddle of life: to improve ourselves and contribute to the happiness of others. I definitely agree that those are two very positive things, but not the only ones. Well, unless you expand upon the contributing to the happiness of others, including solving the world's most daunting problems, which will definitely contribute to the happiness of others. But I think that's missing from Mary Shelley's quote there. So next, in response to Linda, who says, we can't reach homeostasis. We can't find our way back home. Well, we can't do it individually, that's for sure. We have to do it collectively. And that brings me to James's comment, you, James Desmond. The only time that the weight is lifted off of you, you said, is when you're in conversation. And it's, I would add to that it's conversation of a positive, constructive nature, a transformational nature, a revolutionary nature, a radical nature that is absolutely determined that we solve our problems and get out of this death spiral. And again, I just want to reinforce, in response to Jen Maidenberg's comment, Happy to talk more with you about it. I appreciate your voice and your activism, Umair. Well, Jen, I appreciate your comments, and I would love to talk with you and everyone who has commented here, right here in Dear Umair. And with that, I pass the talking feather.
Yeah.
All right, I'll read the next three comments. The first one is a one-liner from Sharon Hall. Thank you for speaking truth to power. Another is from Christine Marie Lund, and I've seen her comment before. She writes, I have felt this almost to a T. Live with chronic illness and figuring out how I will pay my next medical bill. I have been wondering why I can't stop working or staying busy. To rest is to think too much. Thank you so much for having the courage to be real. We need so much more of it. I can get involved by loving my neighbors, speaking truth to power, brushing my teeth, drinking water, eating the best I can, showering and keeping myself up, laughing, dancing, and trying to find my tribe where I belong. Welcome, Christine. It's here. Whoops, I should be on red as I'm reading comments. Most of the way through Christine's comment. Trying to find my tribe where I belong seems so basic, but so hard right now. I can't fix what is happening, but I want to make the best of my moments here. Thank you for helping me right now. It helped. And the next comment I'll read is, I don't know how to pronounce this, Aelle, A-E-L-L-E. For some of us, we are always tired and always burned out. We didn't need a collapse from a country, society, or culture to realize how exhausted we are. I'm embracing the idea that everyone has so many spoons of energy to use. Some of us have fewer than others. Some can increase their number of spoons, others cannot. Many will actually lose spoons, and not always because they grow older. My concern is you and others will blame this exhaustion solely on a societal collapse, much like blaming Brexit solely for the current problems in the UK and COVID-19 everywhere else. In many respects, the collapse, as well as what people have to do to survive, is more of an external sign and not a direct cause. It's not a leaf, but it isn't getting at the root of the matter, of the problem either. And there's a response to Aelle's comment, which is from Rafael Perez, who writes, the root of the problem is bad parenting and the collapse of fake values. We had been living in the land of make-believe and pretend, but with all technical advances, we can run, but we cannot hide. The moral fiber that kept us going has become a wet noodle from the bad upbringing. That is why so few can cope and many commit suicide and others choose to live in the bliss of ignorance. And with that, I pass the feather.
Well, to that last comment there, no, I would say that's not a personal bubble, but it's kind of lost my train of thought there now, but go on, I'll skip it a while. I'm after losing my train of thought.
Sure, no problem, James. Passing the feather. All right, and again, I encourage note taking. Let's see here. Okay, next comments. We have Cara Lee writes, you're not alone at all, feeling so much of all of this. And this even with working with a trauma-informed therapist as well, who is solid gold, by the way. We're in an unholy combination of ongoing trauma situations that are affecting literally millions of people. I would say billions. Whoops, let me change the background color. Halfway through Cara Lee's comment. Trauma situations that are affecting literally millions of people. As a result, trauma-informed therapists should have enough business for the rest of their lives dealing with the tsunami of people who are suffering and who realize they are as the years unfold before us. And you're right, the elites don't give a shit anyhow. Brilliant and eloquent article. That's from Cara Lee. Next comment from John Egelkraut. I never in a million years thought my 60s would be like this, watching the entire country, the entire planet feel like it's about to implode. I don't think I have ever been less optimistic in my life. And the next comment's a long one, so I'll pause for comments from you all before I continue. Passing the feather.
Yeah, well, I mean, to Carol Ian, yeah, I mean, trauma, everybody's suffering with the trauma, and but Carol Lee is seeing it as it's, you know, she, in a sense, I suppose she's seeing it all as it's been designed to be. We're just accepting it, really, or we're just, you know, not desensitized. We just carry on as normal, and it's all working as it's all work, you know, as the system has it designed to work out. It's like we're put through a rinse and cycle or something like that, you know what I mean? Then to bring the best out of, to get the best out of us during our short lifetimes of misery. And as if it's just designed that way and accepted that way, but it shouldn't be. And yeah, sorry. And to the last one, well, all I can say to that man is, I'm sorry that he reached that stage. Well, I'm almost, you know, I'm 54 now myself, like, and all I'm worried about is my own daughter and my family, nieces and nephews and extended. So the whole situation, then when you look at it on a global scale, then is a horrifying situation. So all I can say is, I know where that man is and what he's thinking. But he can also get in the conversation and find some comfort in it and maybe have some solutions himself. Passing the feather. I think Mark was out of the car.
Oh, yeah. He wrote in the comments that he'd be right back. I want to comment on John's comment that he has never been less optimistic in his life, and that he never thought in a million years that his 60s would be like this, watching the planet about to implode. So I went from being very optimistic about life in my younger years to reaching this building, growing, gnawing realization of the planet's problems, which reached a crescendo in late 2016 when I first learned of Guy McPherson's work, and became depressed, extremely anxious, and started looking, digging for solutions and trying to co-create solutions with others. And at this moment, I'm actually profoundly optimistic because I see how close we are to a collective intelligence with critical mass that will grow exponentially towards collective superintelligence, which will then explode exponentially from there. And I also see how simple the solutions are. Make plant-based foods available to everyone, and that's very implementable, as we're proving in Los Angeles with Food Healers Los Angeles, led by Sarah, Annie, and others, and then also Marine Cloud Brightening. so we have solutions that some of which are in the idea stage, some of which are actually being implemented, but all of which need all of us, the change makers, the optimists, and those who are willing to become optimistic as you get into this process. It's waiting for all of us to come together. So that's why we're doing Dear Umair, with the explicit intention of bringing all of us together as a community into a network of conversations. That's the grand meta solution, that which will beget all of the actual solutions, as I've written about and talked about many times. And with that, I pass the feather. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm complete on that as well. Suppose you should read on.
Not so fast, says Marco.
No, I'm back. I didn't hear the last couple comments. I had to take a bio break, but that's all good.
All right, you sound very relieved. So let's read the next comment from Ruben Miador. Umair, as usual, this was a well-written article. However, we don't all feel like you do. You, my friend, are our pack mule. Your chosen occupation has become a heavy burden because of where you focus and attention is placed. If you were to write about sunsets, mountains, sunrises, and ocean currents, for example, you'd still have to contend with daily life as stated in your article, but it wouldn't affect you as it does now. It 10 times affects you because you are fully immersed in the daily research of the negative circumstances, concerns of life, government, people, and future outlook. I agree. We may feel a little burned out at times, perhaps, but not even close to what you must feel as you have to internalize what you witness and read, and then put those thoughts into words for us. And lately, the focus has been collapse of nearly everything around us: economy, society, government, climate, marriages, etc. Nevertheless, your research and opinions are appreciated greatly always. And there's one quick reply from Jasmine, who writes, you, Ruben, are clearly an anomaly. Anyway, with that, I pass the feather.
Well, I mean, clearly that person gets it. Like he gets it, and he gets Umair. He gets what I was saying the other while ago about the other person's comment about Umair peddling the news. So what does he mean by being burnt out about it? That person gets it exactly. Of course, he's burnt out about it. If that's his news, that's what he's chosen to focus on, because he's not doing it to earn off it. He's doing it because he's doing it to, strike up I'm hoping he's doing it for these conversations, to strike up these conversations about what's going on, you know what I mean? So on a broader scale, that's all we're doing, is providing a space for it. But I'm glad to hear that person there. No, it basically, he could have put that comment in defense of the guy that was accusing Umair of just peddling the news. Passing the fellow.
Yeah, it's not like Umair is creating any of these problems. He's merely addressing them, bringing them to what seems to be a fairly wide audience. And for the most part, the comments that I've read, it's if people weren't aware, they're becoming more aware through these articles. And I know just to see that someone else understands these things in a way that is realistic. I mean, he's not putting Umair is not putting any spin on these things, just simply reporting the situation that we're in. And hopefully this is going to spark enough interest and people looking for the solutions, which we'd love to help with. And with that, I pass the feather.
Thank you, Marco. Yeah, I mean, see, Umair is providing so much value. He is analyzing the problems, synthesizing them down into very digestible nuggets, bringing all of us together here at Dear Umair to then take it to the next level and go from pivot from problems to solutions. So hallelujah, we love you, Umair. And that's why we're here on Dear Umair, passing the feather.
Yeah, I think I'm complete on comments so far. I'm ready for new ones.
All right, well, just jump in anytime with comments, even if I'm like mid-sentence reading a comment, just jump in, okay? Don't hesitate, you guys. I'm going to read 3 more and just, again, jump in if you have anything to say. Let's try it out, okay? Robert Billiard writes, as a fellow blogger, Umair, I know the feeling, and the cure, or should I say the therapy, is to get back to nature. I feel very fortunate that I live where I can be on a trail or at a lake in a few minutes' time. This is why so many people are retreating from big cities. Walking my dog gives life a whole new meaning. Get to know Henry David Thoreau. I was so inspired by reading him, I wrote a chapbook called Up Close with Thoreau, His Thoughts and My Photographs, blurb.com, and he provides a link. A couple more comments. First, a short one from Random Descent writes, thank you, Umair. Yep, I feel you. Well spoken. I feel it too. Be well. And next, a comment by Christopher Miller. Best explanation for what's behind the significant rise in explosively erupting misbehavior over the most trivial of issues we've experienced in the last few years. Of course, politicians pumping it up to advance their own agendas has certainly not helped soothe public angst. All right, with that, I pass the feather.
Well, to the first person who made the comment on it, I would say, very good advice again, but yet, he's given Umair some personal advice on how to take it easy and relax and find some relaxation in his life. And this is very important again, I'll stress, but at the same time, it's within your own bubble again. It's not looking at the broader scale of things, which is what Umair writes about anyway. So, it's nice personal advice, but at the same time, it's not looking at the big picture. And yeah, sorry, you nearly have to read the last writer's comment, or not the last comment, the second last comment again, but I found that interesting, but I'm after losing it. Sorry, the cat is distracting me here now.
That's all right. That's all right. Yeah, my comment on your comment is, James.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. To the other comment, I would say that's a very valid point as well. That he just addressed as well. There is about how people are freaking out about the simplest of things and everything else. That is a very, very good statement, because it's an indicator of the stress levels that people are under. Really, it's an indicator of what Umair's article was all about. Really, why people are freaking out and stressing out and having short fuses and everything else. So it's just a symptom of the pressure we're all under. So it is a very interesting comment. Yeah, sorry, carry on, Jenna.
No, you're good, James. You're good. Yeah, I just wanted to comment on your comment that, the gentleman who proposes, Robert Billiard, that you take a walk in the woods and go on trails and walks with dogs and all that. I don't think he's suggesting we can solve the world's problems with those things, but just to kind of take care of ourselves. And so, all of us need to strike that balance of self-care and care for the whole of Mother Earth, Mother Gaia, and all of her creatures, all of each other, etc. So I think that's all very, very valuable and very valid. Passing the feather. All right, I'm going to continue reading more comments, and let's just try jumping in. Even if you're not used to it, try exercising this muscle, you guys. Just jump in if you have something to say at any moment. Rochelle H. writes, I feel the same way. I was thinking I need therapy. Instead, I bought a popular meditation app. It hasn't really helped. My life is not stressful at all. I'm actually in such a great position that I'm able to take the last quarter of the year off. The idea was to travel for a few weeks, but now I'm stressed about finding a travel location that isn't a COVID hot zone. Next comment, Stephen Edwards writes, my dad was in World War II. He told me about Jews who were rounded up and crammed into trains like sardines in cans and left on the tracks for days until the trains were full enough to go to the concentration camps, and then either worked to death, starved to death, exterminated, etc. Whenever I feel badly, I realize I'll probably never have things even 1/100th as bad as the poor Jews on the trains. So pick yourself up and stop feeling so down. You aren't going to a concentration camp. You can turn off the news. You can get busy and write another article. I'm sorry. I
just got to jump in on that one. That was, oh my God.
I bought it then, really.
Yeah, that kind of blows my mind. You know, that what happened in World War II and the millions of Jews and others that were murdered is certainly horrible. And if you think that you won't experience even anything remotely close to that, just the reality is that maybe in as little as 3 years, there will not be the ability, and it's already starting. Certain crops are not growing well, and they won't grow at all with another temperature climb of 0.5 degree, and 1 degree it gets worse, and then we're going to have Arctic the next summer, 2022, or the one following. We will have no Arctic sea ice left in recorded history, as long as humanity has been here. And that's going to create even more warming because we don't have the reflectivity or the cooling from that ice. And you're going to be looking at a situation where the whole planet is worse than a concentration camp. There won't be enough food. There won't be, the availability of travel and creature comforts that we have now. And this is soon. This is within your lifetime, unless you're going to die tomorrow. Within, if we don't make the changes that need to be made now, if we don't cool this planet and do it soon, concentration camps are I just getting a little tongue-tied here, but definitely we will be experiencing conditions worse than concentration camps, because the concentration camps were a specific area. This is going to be a worldwide devastation. Too hot to grow food, too hot to be in full daylight, too hot for anything to to remain the way it is now. It will be a wasteland. And with that, I pass the feather. Sorry, it was definitely negative, but that's reality. And I pass the feather.
Well, I just said there anyway to that last reader, like, look, there are concentration camps in the world at the moment as we speak, like, you know what I mean? I remember only during the start of the year or last year, at the end of last year, was it? There was a shipment of human scalps, you know what I mean? 20 tons of human scalps. You can imagine how many scalps it took to make 20 tons of human scalps. Stopped at customs on this near California, I think it was, on its way into Europe for hair extensions. But they came from what are considered supposedly people that passed on. I don't know, like, but there's doubts to it as to where they came from. They're saying concentration camps in China, you know, blah 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 blah. Doesn't matter. Point is, there are concentration camps, not to the extent of what was in World War II by any means anyway. Unless you look at the situation like Gaza, which is basically a whole city being in the ghettos and bombs dropping on them all the time. So you've all sorts of situations going on like that at the moment. That person's not in reality at all. And with the rise of fascism, as Umair writes about, we could be very back to that situation again very soon. So the fact is, those last two comments, those people weren't really in touch with reality as far as I'm concerned anyway. And I don't mean to be harsh, but you know, that's the way it seemed to me.
So just a quick comment. Number one, I'm going to have to, it's getting dark here. I'm going to have to hit the road soon. We don't have to pick apart every last comment. If somebody makes a comment that's really just totally missing the mark, it's okay to just let it go. And we can, anyway, just a thought. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and read two more comments in a row. First one, Catherine Moore writes, sorry to hear so much pain and struggle to just survive. Our human condition, which always ends up grappling with the futility of life, is doubly painful. Sorry, I gotta change the background. A few lines into Catherine Moore's comment. Our human condition, which always ends up grappling with the futility of life, is doubly painful for someone who is naturally sensitive and intelligent. So slow down, Umair, slow down. I too am struggling, trying to have faith in life, knowing it's a desperate mission which often ends up in one cul-de-sac or another. Even love takes us to the deepest pains. Even pain proves our capacity to love. This, perhaps, is the miracle we can trust to go beyond our traumatized lives. Take good care of yourself, Umair. Snowy Snowball needs you, and so do your wife, family, friends, and us, your readers. Take it easy, take it slowly. There's no urgency. I offer this poem by Lao Tzu. I hope you'll find in it the path towards healing your bruised soul. 30 spokes share the wheel's hub. It is the center hole that makes it useful. Shape clay into a vessel. It is the space within that makes it useful. Cut doors and windows for a room. It is the holes which make it useful. Therefore, benefit comes from what is there. Usefulness from what is not there. Lao Tzu. And the next comment from Oz Zarin. He writes, that's because you are only looking at those who destroy their own societies for profit, like the UK or the US, and not the rest of the world. The rest of the world is doing better. Look at China. They got out of the pandemic early. They even had recorded actual growth last year. Gigantic pool parties. People back to traveling en masse back to their hometowns for Chinese holiday. They didn't even let the old die like how the West did, saying, The pandemic affects mostly the old, so it's okay for the economy. Even Saudi Arabia is trying to improve themselves. The new prince has plans for pivoting away from oil, for education, for industry and infrastructure. Every country is trying to do something to make things better. It's only the US, the UK, and a few countries which follow those who loaded their entire existence on stock market and financial economy, throwing everything else, including people, into the trash can. And then Jasmine Alexandra North comments to Oz's comment above. I don't agree completely. The rest of the world is doing more damage to the planet than the countries you cite. No pollution control whatsoever, burning of forests, out of control air pollution, out of control birth rates, starving masses, drought, corrupt governments, just to name a few. Please take off your rose-colored glasses. All right, I'm going to keep.
Here.
Yeah, go ahead, James. Yeah.
Yeah, well, here, I'd say that person making that comment on the person who commented before them, because the other person's only thinking that if the economy is good, so we're all good. So again, not looking at the picture. And to the here to the person before that comment then as well. It was what was her name?
Checking. That was Catherine Moore.
That third last comment, yeah. Yeah, fair dues to her as well. And here, and there, she said she wished there was a place where she could find comfort or whatever, or peace or whatever. I just to say to whatever the comment was, I can't remember the word, for example, but we're offering that place for her anyway, and for all the other people who are commenting. This is the place to come if you know, to have the conversations that we're all commenting on, but aching for talk to someone about. So, you know, we're offering the space. Come on, that's all I say. Passing the feather.
Beautiful. Thanks, James. All right, I'm just going to read through the last comments because I do need to get going, but just jump in with any comment in the middle, right in the middle of what I'm reading. Okay, fair enough. Marco, James, just do it. Just jump in. Don't read.
All right.
Okay. Joseph Ficht writes, I have totally ignored the pandemic and feel great as I had parties and dinners at my house during the lockdown. Fortunately, our county sheriff in Macomb County, Michigan, said he would not enforce any of the decrees. I took advantage of the low airfares to travel and earned elite status with both American and United and enjoy the first class upgrades. My only concession to the virus was to get vaccinated. I seldom wear a mask and I simply don't worry about it. Couple of replies. Liz McLeod writes, this unfortunately reminds me of the type of justification that believes it's okay to kick a man when he's unconscious, he won't feel it, or watch a woman assaulted. You didn't do it. The rest of us who are trying to remain vigilant in a time of upheaval don't find any comfort at all in this blithe denial of what everyone else, especially exhausted healthcare workers, are going through. Meanwhile, Kathy Connor writes, did you ever stop to wonder if you might be asymptomatic? All those flights and dinner parties without a mask could easily have been COVID spreading events. Please give the rest of us some consideration before your next gathering.
Yeah, that's just the COVID situation. I mean, that person's living in sheer denial anyway. As long as it's good for him, he don't care about anyone else. That's it. He said that in his remarks alone.
Yeah.
Carry on.
And then Catherine Moore, who we've heard from earlier, writes, you sound very well and totally prepared to face your creator. Should be interesting. By the way, those last three comments from three ladies to Joseph's comment all got like around 30 applauses each. Joseph's got all of 2 applauses. And then Brian Austin writes, in referencing Umair's line, I don't have a particularly stressful life, or do I? Maybe it's your writing themes, Umair. You're bathing in the negatives constantly. These come with a certain wear and tear. Like driving hail is more scouring than light, gentle rain. But some folks actually like the bad stuff and show no interest in all the good things happening. Problem is, as the provider of doom and gloom, it has a price paid via your mental state. You gain in at least one way and lose in other ways. Some people will always relate more with doom. It's a human trait, probably from the word go. In geological time spans, 1 minute we were running from tigers to avoid being eaten. Next, we're working out how to pay the bills, or fight climate change, or any number of other issues we may choose. While in the modern world, lots of new issues occupy our minds, we're still running from tigers. We expect demons around every corner. Our minds haven't really adapted yet. To make the leap, we have to want to balance out our biases. Not always easy. No single person can fix the human world. We will learn how to fix it, or we won't. Perhaps there's another. Yeah, go ahead.
That's the truest thing you said so far. Go on anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Perhaps there's another reason too. Writing at the seemingly nonstop rate that you write is hard, really hard. With practice, the words may flow more easily some days or most days, but your mental state can erode faster than expected. With constant writing, your mind may have little time to recharge, to repair itself, maybe ease up. Sometimes the words can wait. And then Jasmine Alexandra North, in response to that comment from Brian Austin, she writes, in all due respect, doom and gloom is the reality of the way things are. Some people are just better than others at hiding their heads in the sand.
Yeah.
Then Debbie Ginny writes in response to Umair's comment that an indifference to life and truth and decency, predatory profiteering, greed, devastation, fire, famine, flood, skyrocketing poverty amongst storing riches. She writes, this is our new normal, and yet we all tend to look away. Good point. Comment from Marianne Johnson writes, this 1,000 times yes. I keep mourning all the things I had hoped for that never came to pass and likely never will, at least in my lifetime. I'm in my 60s. Starting with the ERA here in America, Equal Rights Amendment. I have so hoped and worked for a world where diversity is celebrated. People pull together to create a world where unfettered capitalism isn't our norm, where there is at least hope for a future where humans have at least a chance of using their skills and talents and capabilities in a way. Oh shoot, sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing. 1 second, and I'll get right back to it. Continuing from Mary Ann Johnson's comment, hope for a future where humans have at least a chance of using their skills and talents and capabilities in a way that contributes at least a little to improvements in everyone's lives. And yet here we are, further behind in so many ways and sliding backwards. I can't say these things to people because I'll be attacked for being negative. I love solitude, yet now I'm detaching further and further because I don't see a way out of it. At this point, I simply don't want our species to take down the rest of our natural world on this planet. I'll comment to what Marianne Johnson is saying there. In order to save the rest of the species, we need to reform ourselves. We need to reform and transform humanity and create a whole new story, culture, and civilization. that's all about being the caretaker species, and that we cool the planet, take care of our own being all species and ecosystems. So it's not just about humanity passing and then everything will be fine. No, we're past that point. If the nuclear power plants alone will fry the atmosphere if we let them. So humanity needs to reform so that we can deal with the nuclear power plants, deal with the planetary overheating that only we can do as a tool using species. We're the only species that can do marine cloud brightening, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my comment there.
And I just like also to comment to as well to that, like, yes, you like you're 60, you're saying you're almost 60, and it doesn't look like you're going to see that in your lifetime. Well, I'm 54 myself, and for last couple of years, I didn't think, and sometimes don't think that I'm going to see that in my lifetime either. But the thing is, what we need to all realize now is that globally, we're all on the cusp of either making that a reality in a very short few years, or we face the other grim reality, which is what the IPCC even have in store for us, which is, and that's what an IPCC report said, even in 2019 itself, total annihilation of all life on Earth. That's an IPCC report. That's not coming out of our heads or anything else like that. You can look them up. Like, so we actually are on the cusp of making that last comment there, that person's last comment, making that life a reality for her in her lifetime, because that's our alternative. We either do that now, or we're doomed, basically. Sorry for being the doomer, but like, that's the alternative. What can you say? You can't put it any other way. Like, and I think all of the readers and people that are commenting get it anyway. Like, can't hide the fucking elephant, basically. Sorry, passing the feather.
Thank you, James. All right, we've got one last comment. And here it is. This is from Nick Mohammed. You have accurately described life in America. To be born in the 95% and get ahead financially, we must resort to multiple life hacks. We have as much room for error as when playing a video game at the highest difficulty level. And to that comment of Nick's, I would comment that he's focusing on getting ahead financially, and he's saying just to do that at an individual level is like playing a video game at the highest difficulty level with no room for error. What about saving life on Earth? Now, I agree with Nick. Same thing applies. It's like playing a fantastically difficult video game with no margin for error at this point, because we're so close to an ice-free Arctic and just utterly, undescribably catastrophic planetary overheating. However, to make the analogy complete, it's not one individual playing the video game at this point. It's the entire collective intelligence evolving towards collective superintelligence to play the video game. And with that level of intelligence, we make the game trivial. And the key is coming together. Where? For example, right here on Dear Umair, for example, the block party, for example, the press conference. So with that, I pass the talking feather.
Yeah, I'm complete as well, other than to say like that, just going through tonight there now into all the comments that to Umair's article, like, I think everybody would really, anyone that reads the comment will see the similarity in all of them, like, and that's basically, they're not alone, and there are people out there, but again, there is not alone, and there are people out there, but there are people who are offering a space to speak and talk about it as well, and help yourself, or come with a solution yourself, whichever the case may be. just come to talk, just come to feel a bit normal in with people of self, like-minded, whichever. But just, come to the conversation. Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. I see. I anticipate just from the comments from this article alone that there's some awesome people that I can't wait to have a conversation with. And I hope they look up our schedule and come and join the conversation. It's going to be amazing. I'm sad I'm complete.
Absolutely. Amen. Hallelujah. Let's do it. Join us every Monday and every Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific time on Dear Umair, among other great venues, but that's a great place to start. I pass the feather.
Well, I'm complete anyway. I'll just say, good night and good luck. And God bless from Ireland.
Definitely. God bless from Michigan.
And good night and God bless from the Ohio River in southeastern Ohio, where we Shiveleys come from. All right. Thanks so much, Marco and James. And we'll see you. And thank you for watching and listening. We'll see you next time here on Dear Umair. Thank you.